Okay, today's demonstration is of a pretty simple color configuration. I simply have built my sphere with using two different colors, with each in a different hemisphere, the yellow and the red. Yellow is the most common color piece that I made. I made 120 pieces, and in a previous video you saw I could make a complete sphere out of just yellow pieces. Red is the second most common color piece I did. I made exactly 60 of those, 30 different pairs. And so I can complete a hemisphere out of red and join the two together, and you have the whole sphere. So this isn't super interesting, of course, but I'm going to do this to talk about one undeveloped puzzle that's related to this shape. So years ago, back in the 80s, of course, one of the most popular, or the most popular puzzle of all time is the Rubik's Cube physical puzzle. And that's a cube that you can twist and mix up colors and so forth. Ever since the Rubik's Cube came out, there's been a whole underground of, well, not underground, just inventors, puzzle inventors who have improved upon this. The general category of puzzles are called twisty puzzles because you twist them and manipulate them, and generally you mix up colors on the faces and so forth, and you try to reset them. That's how you solve the puzzle. Everyone, I think, is familiar with the Rubik's Cube. There are many other shapes, as these videos have been demonstrating, besides the cubes, and many designers through the years, through the decades, have been developing puzzles based on different geometric shapes, which are essentially twisty puzzles where you try to solve them by, or mix them up and then try to resolve them by getting the colors in the proper place. You could theoretically do something like that with this shape, having 120 different pieces that all rotate. And the reason why I made this is, in this particular color configuration, is I am going to try to very carefully rotate this sphere, these two hemispheres. Now, you see, these are just made with magnets, and you know, you've seen me put these pieces together in other videos. This is kind of loose. If I were to squeeze this too hard, it would just shatter apart. But if I very carefully grasp the two hemispheres, one in each hand, I might be able to lift them, separate their magnets, and put them back down. Now, I just rotated the two hemispheres 180 degrees, but of course you can't tell because I did it along this equator where the two colors split. But for this, what would make this so challenging of a puzzle is that there are so many different equators that split this sphere up. So for example, let's see if I can pull this off again. I'm now going to see if I can do this without shattering the whole thing. There we go. So there I just did a twist, and now on a different equator that cuts the sphere, and now you can tell even those two shapes, they're kind of mixed up. Now this would be pretty easy to solve, just twist it right back, except now notice I can now rearrange it, reorient it in my hands, and if I can pull this off another time, now I've got this, and suddenly the puzzle is getting more mixed up. In fact, if I handed you this and say, hey, you only need to do two 180 degree twists along hemisphere or equators to get this solved back into two halves of a sphere, could you do it? It is not at all obvious how to do it. And again, this could be twisted again. I'll keep doing this until, you know, I screw something up or it comes apart. Okay, so there we go. It's even more mixed up. And this, of course, is just with two colors, red and yellow. Imagine if I went back to, say, the original dodecahedron with 12 different colors, 12 different faces, and you started mixing those up. Very quickly, you should be able to see this becomes an extraordinarily difficult puzzle. But you'll also notice I've had to be very, very careful when I twisted this. And I've gotten very lucky. I've practiced this. 3 times. I've twisted it, and it hasn't just shattered and come apart. Being able to build a purely mechanical version of this puzzle, I've read on the web, and I will link to this web page on this video, to a website called twistypuzzles.com. It is a forum where people who design these puzzles talk about this, and this puzzle mechanism of 120 different shapes and trying to build something where mechanically it won't fall apart, this evidently is pretty much the last unsolved toy or puzzle, twisty puzzle, that hasn't been developed. The reason I came across this page is a couple friends of mine who I've emailed in the past, and I've known either through social media or I've met at conferences before, or who are puzzle designers. They have made attempts to try this. One of them used magnets, another one tried to do a purely mechanical way, but no one has yet satisfactorily made a version of this which is easy to twist, relatively speedy, isn't in danger of falling apart when you do it, isn't overly heavy or something like that. The problem, of course, is that there are just so many pieces here, and the mechanics. A Rubik's Cube, while it is intricate and was amazing when it was first invented, it's actually mechanically not that terribly difficult to recreate. And a lot of the other twisty puzzles throughout the years, they get a little more complicated, and sometimes they're a little unwieldy, but with some care they can be turned. But this guy, again, let me try one more time just to liven this up. This is so difficult to get. In fact, so this time it didn't work. So I just had some pieces fall out. I just picked it up, but see, I'm able to put it back in, no problem, but you obviously wouldn't want that for a productized toy. You would want it where kids could play with it and rotate it without the fear of it all coming apart. So here you can see I actually have taken it apart. I'm holding the two hemispheres, but there's nothing inside. One of the designs that one of the people tried was they put a metal sphere on the inside and I assume magnets on the interior to help hold it together, but that just made the whole thing too heavy. So all these things have been tried, but to date, evidently no one has been able to design an intricate enough mechanical interior to hold all this together and to make an actual working puzzle of this difficulty. If someone is able to, and it was actually marketed, it would of course be an extraordinarily difficult puzzle. I would assume orders of magnitude even harder than the Rubik's Cube. So all those people who can solve the Rubik's Cube in 10 seconds or something, this would just be horrendous. Again, I've just done, I think, a total of 4 or 5 twists on this. And for this, you do a full 180-degree twist each time. That's how the magnets line back up and it gets an orientation. So I've only done 4 or 5 180-degree twists. Supposedly I could reverse those, but I can't immediately see how I would do that. Of course, I'm also not an expert puzzle solver when it comes to twisty puzzles, but you can imagine how difficult this puzzle would be. So, again, if you're interested in this whole topic, I will link in the description of this video, this particular video, to that page that talks about the undeveloped or the unrealized potential of this particular puzzle. And a very fascinating topic. It's also that Twisty Puzzles website, of course, has hundreds of other puzzles that people have designed. So if you're interested in this type of puzzle, beyond just a toy that you can assemble to get geometric shapes, actual Rubik's Cube type puzzle, I would encourage you to investigate that. So that is the last video for this week. Thank you.